You're listening to The Objective Jerk, and I am said jerk. Hope everybody's doing well. Not much to talk about regarding myself. Same old, same old. Living the dream, the retired life. Just trying to, be a good Christian. Pray the rosary. Do all that good stuff. And just try and get some stuff done around the house, I guess. I did my last video. For my last podcast, I had 2 cameras and to get different whatever. And I basically do so because the audio from the phone, I had to take just the video, but trying to line it up was difficult. So I basically, if you watch it, you know what I'm talking about, but I basically just did like the cutaway to the other camera every time I drank out of my coffee cup. Because it was easier to find and line up and everything like that. But even that was such a pain in the ass. So, yeah, I don't know how editors do it, man. You know, people are like, oh my gosh, I'm doing a YouTube channel. It's the easiest job in the world. Yeah, it's to have a good one, it's not. It's not. I do have a YouTube channel, but I don't do it. My podcast automatically uploads to it. And I do share some of the videos sometimes, but mine are pretty straightforward. Just record and stop and upload. So mine are easy. So yeah, just doing that little bit of editing or whatever was like, holy crap, that was a pain in the butt. That was a pain in the butt. Let's see. I guess that's kind of it, really. But yeah, I wanted to discuss. I'm not going to discuss black fatigue or racism, or at least try not to, but I'm just going to discuss the stabbing in Charlotte, I think, of the Ukraine girl on the train. I thought it was a bus at first, but anyway, so I saw this originally. So this happened like a couple weeks ago. And then I saw about a week, I think maybe more than a couple, I said 3, maybe even a month, but I'm not sure. But it happened last month. But it's just now getting widespread attention because people will share it and post it, you know what I mean? Because the mainstream media wasn't saying jack about it, And I shared it like about a week ago. I, saw it probably on X or whatever. And like I posted it, and it was just a simple, picture of whatever it was. Like it showed a clip of right where he's about to stab her, and I just said pretty sad, and I was like, and the media crickets. What? This says 2 days ago. No. This was a lot longer than 2 days ago. What is this talking about? It wasn't 2 days ago. That's when I started getting all kinds of interaction, though. Wait, hold on. Something's not right, I don't think. What is this? I have something that was taken off. Anyway, so finally it's there are people like saying some stuff, like not even friends actually. But yeah, it's freaking sad. It's a sad situation. I was gonna play the video and then kind of react to the entire thing because I've only seen the pictures and read the stuff, and I was like, well, I'll watch the video. Which I did, though, which I'll discuss. But, the people on the train are getting a lot of flack. So I'm going to kind of actually defend them a little bit. And I'll explain why. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's so sad. So, at first it was like, okay, you saw just the one where he knows he's gonna get stabbed, or it's like, and then recent, or she's gonna get stabbed. And recently, I'm trying to slow down because my brain just goes like 100 miles an hour, and my mouth can't keep up. So that's why I'm like all over the place a lot of times with my podcast, and I'm trying to like woo-saw it down. Um, and then you saw like her reaction immediately afterward, where she's like, and then she's crying. But you got to watch the video, man, to really, I think people are just seeing those little snippets of the video, and they're just, it's not really hitting them. But then when you watch the video, it's very sad. But before I get in, well, I think the worst and the saddest thing is this guy's history, his criminal history, and the judge that lets him out. Like, that's just complete evil horse shit. There's that, and I think somebody's here. Man, I didn't lock my door, did I? Let me check my camera. Yeah, my son is here. Anyway, that and the way the left-wing media is trying to, but just how the left-wing media is trying to water down the situation and just make it seem like it's not a big deal, and that, it's not about race, and and this is why the left-wing media is just failing. And how do they not, I don't understand how they're still going about this. Is it money or is it Satan? What is it? Because it's not common sense. Like, why? How can they think that, I don't know. They're so brainwashed. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about this a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about an experience I had sort of like as one of these individuals on the train. I've talked about before on the podcast, but I didn't really go into detail, I guess. But so I'll talk a little more about that, where I was not witness, but I was right after an individual was injured and sadly lost his life. Anyway, so I don't know. Part of me is like, man, don't watch the video. But then a part of me is like, you kind of gotta watch the video, because it's just, it's horrendous, man. And you need to know what's going on, So the video starts out, you see, some people sitting on the bus, and you see this young girl who actually is wearing her hair and her hat up. I thought it was a boy, actually, the first time I saw it. But so she was a young woman, and she gets on, and then she sits down. And the whole time she's doing this, she's on her phone. Her eyes are glued to the phone. She's just, da, 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 da. And that's a huge, huge problem that not just the kids today, but just many people in general. It drives me nuts. Situational awareness, I harp on my kids all the time. I was like, in public, do not be on your phone. If you're at school and you're not supposed to be on your phone at school, but, doing whatever in the hallways. When you're allowed to be on your phone at school is fine. When you're at home is fine. In the car, whatever. But don't be walking anywhere. Don't be in public and doing stuff and just be glued to your phone, because that's how you miss stuff, and that's how you can get injured and, kidnapped or killed or whatever, So, but with that said, though, it's not like if she wasn't on her phone, is she versed or trained to see possible dangers, sit, like me, if I got on a train like that, I would want to sit with my back to like the back of the car so no one's behind me. I cannot stand to have someone sit behind me. Things like that, but you can't always get that. But still, it's like, it's good to just make eye contact with everybody and just kind of, say hi, do a little head nod, whatever, and just kind of sit down. Just be aware, If she was not glued on her phone, it's possible he might not have attacked her. if she would have saw him, made eye contact and said, "Hey, how you doing?" He might not have attacked her. I mean, it's hard to say. The guy was pretty violent history, but so that's kind of a thing. That's a problem that you see it all the time too. People on their phones walking, falling into stuff, or getting hit, or doing all this kind of stuff because they're just not paying attention. You gotta be situational aware, man. So then, okay, so she sits down, she's on her phone, and the guy decides pretty quick that he's gonna stab her. So then he gets up and he stabs her like 3 times. Like, I thought it was just like once in the side, but he hit her in the side and then like twice in the front. It wasn't a huge knife, and it was really fast. And like, it was almost like she didn't even, I think she thought like she got punched first, you know what I mean? And then, because you see it, he hits her, and then he kind of walks up to the door. And then she's like in shock. Her eyes are open. She's like, oh my gosh, and she starts to kind of cry. She looks down. She can see there's blood because he did hit her, and then it takes seconds. And she loses consciousness, bleeds out, and dies. Now, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how come they didn't? You see some people kind of not really doing anything. And, for the first few seconds of it, they had no idea. They probably just thought he punched her. You know what I mean? So somebody, and all these people are on their phones too. They're not situationally aware. So all they, from their point of view, it could have just looked like, bam, she got punched. It wouldn't have been until if somebody's watching, because he flips his knife, because I think he cuts his hand, so he gets blood there. And then when she passes out and falls to the floor, you can see blood on her seat. And then she proceeds to bleed all over the train. You know what I mean? So for the first few seconds, people not like, they're just trying to stay, not get involved. Because you've seen what happens when people get involved. You had the white guy that like choked out the other dude and was going to go to jail. You know what I mean? For a guy who was being, that's why nobody's going to do anything. So it's like, you can't really, hate on people too much. But I think that was only to a certain extent. And then plus, you really can't go after somebody with it's not good to go after somebody with a knife unless you're trained in it. If you're going to try and take someone down that has a knife, if it's in his hand, chances are you're going to get cut or stabbed. Even if you are trained, chances are you're going to get cut or stabbed. So it's not, but I mean, if you got a couple people and you can get his hand, it's possible. Or maybe he put the knife away, then it's like, okay. But, it is, a little disheartening that more was not done. And either with the guy, which that's the least of it, really. I mean, maybe they were worried because he was there. Maybe if he would have took off down to the other end, then maybe people would have went to her aid sooner. It's possible. There was this time where I was with my family, my wife and my kids. My kids were pretty young, and we were somewhere. I want to say like a donut place or something. We went and got donuts, or we ate somewhere or something, and we were parked and was backing up. And my wife was like, oh, that couple's fighting, like in the car. They were like arguing with each other. And we backed out, and then he looked like he was like holding her by the neck, being kind of, and it was like, for a second, I'm like, oh, mother trucker, I'm trying not to say the F word. But I was like, and then my wife's like, oh my gosh, maybe we should do something. And I'm like, if it was just her and me, go over there and knock on the window or something, or do, I'm not Mr. Badass or anything. I can't remember if I had my concealed at that time, but I was worried about my kids. I was like, I didn't want to get involved in something that wasn't my business. And it wasn't like, it was obviously, it was a fight that was a little physical. But I just didn't like, what if the dude, shoots at us, and then, I'm endangering my kids. And so I was like, nah, I'm not going to get, it's just, I don't know. I wasn't, and honestly, that never bothered me. You know what I mean? Like, it was never like, man, I wish I would have done something. I was, if I would have been alone or just with my wife, and I was like, no, I don't want to, then I probably would have felt a little guilty. But I was looking out for my kids. I mean, I could have drove down a little ways and then came up and maybe just got them to stop fighting. Maybe. I guess I actually never thought of that until just now. But it's tough to get involved, with stuff. There was even, when I would get trained in CPR and first aid and stuff like that, you have to ask permission. And then if they're unconscious and you do stuff to them, people get sued, and it's ridiculous. So that's why people are a little bit hesitant, but once it was obvious, people did eventually come to her, but it was kind of too late, and I don't think they knew what they were doing. And she was done. There was nothing they could have done. They hit a main artery. You saw the blood. She bled out like that. So unless, you can't put a tourniquet on a neck, unless she had there's not much you could have done. But the thing is people are like, nobody even kind of tried. But like, they see the pictures of her crying and like in shock. But that only lasted seconds. She passed out and bled out. So you knew her, major artery was hit. There wasn't really anything anybody could do. And just like the hesitation though is because people didn't, there was nobody there that was comfortable enough or man enough, whatever you want to say, to say or do anything at that moment. But, even then it's like, I was trying to picture myself like if I was sitting on that train behind them and that happened, I would have been wanting to, a little cautious, waiting for the right moment because it's like, okay, he's got a knife. If I didn't have anything, if I had my concealed, I would have, I would think I would have. It's kind of, it's easy to sit there and say what you would and wouldn't do when you're sitting in a chair 2020, but yeah, with no, I'm not like a train. Knives scare me. I'm more afraid of somebody with a knife than a gun. But I would have waited for a moment for him to be away and then went to go make sure she was okay or something. But then by then she might have already slumped over. You know what I mean? Like it was quick. So, unless you were like with two of your buddies who were, not scared to get punched or anything, you know what I mean? It's but even then though, it wouldn't have mattered though. I mean, you could have got on the guy, maybe gave her comfort for a second, but the end result would have been the same really. Because it was just, he got her just right and she bled out so fast. So I mean, I don't know. You can criticize the people, I guess, a little bit, but it's not like she was there for like 15 minutes, like asking for help. Help me, help me, help me, and then nobody did anything. That would have been pretty sick and sad. But I mean, it was so fast. So it's hard to, to really criticize, I think, at that moment. And I think a lot of people were just like, whoa, what the hell? What's going on? Because most people are on their phones anyway. So they're like, looking like, whoa, what the hell just happened? They don't know. They're not the camera. They didn't see it in 4K or whatever they say. And then those that maybe just caught a glimpse of it probably thought he just like punched her, because I think that's what she thought. She was just like, oh my gosh, what? And then she's bleeding a little bit, but it's like, she might have thought she was bleeding through her nose or something. And probably by the time she realized, she was like, I think she passed out. She didn't even know, So it's just, I don't think people need to focus on those individuals who responded or didn't respond. I think they need to focus more on the judge or judges that let this sick bastard. He's been booked like how many times? Like 10 times for violent crimes. And they just keep letting him out. The last judge that let him out for a violent, I didn't see exactly what all of them were for, but the last, it was a few of them for violent behavior. The last one, that judge should be held accountable. I'm not saying that judge should go to jail and this and that, but the judge should lose their judgeship or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't know what it's called. But because that's just, it was the city and the Justice Department and the DA, whatever, for the city. They're the ones that let that woman down. They failed that woman. So there's that part of it, And then, of course, there's all this stuff going on now with, like, you see videos. I know a lot of people don't watch some social media. I don't really watch it much anymore, but when there was tons and tons of videos, like in high school, just everywhere, of black folks attacking white people. Like, it's okay now, and the media, like, allows it and perpetuates it and all this kind of stuff. And if you fight back, like if you get jumped by a bunch of black dudes, but you're able to knock them out because you're a better fighter, then you're gonna go to jail and be called a racist. You know what I mean? Like, for real. Like, that's not even an exaggeration. So it's like, and then people are like, well, this is how it was for black folks back in the day. It's like, yeah, no, I know, we know, it was shitty. But does that make it right today? At least back then, people didn't really kind of grasp it. They didn't understand racism and all stuff because it was primarily a white country, and you had racist people who were not integrated with other cultures and this and that. So, it was ignorance. But today, these people know. They know. So it's not ignorance. It's just straight up evil and stupidity and selfishness and, I don't know, just a bunch of other stuff. Racist, Black people can't be racist. They're the most racist. Maybe it's, because of generations of being whatever, but, I've been, on the other end of some racism I've told before. And, it's nothing compared. It's stupid, but it was, if you want to break it down to brass tacks, they're racist because I was white. But some of it, it's nothing. So, but, so there's that going on. And the fact that the media, there was nothing in the media about it for like a week. At least, But then when, like, George Floyd, holy crap, they were replaying that and like, look at this, they were on it, on loop, repeat, over and over again. Look at this, white people are evil, white people, you know what I mean? And then this one's like, oh crap, let's just not say nothing. They hoped that it would just go away and it wouldn't. And now that it's out, now you see, like, these news media trying to be like, oh, don't need to jump to conclusions and say it was a racial thing, when the dude's sitting there saying, oh, I got that white girl. So it was a race, what is it called? Hate crime, racial, because she was white. So it's like, these people think that, like, I don't know, what is it? I don't get it. I don't get it. There's an agenda, obviously, and people just, more and more people are waking up to it, I guess, but it's just sad. And it's like, and this girl is from Ukraine. Everybody, oh, Ukraine, support Ukraine. And then she gets to, oh, well, except this time, we don't care. I'm so tired of the double standard, the hypocrisy. And it's so annoying. I don't know. But that's why, but more and more people are waking up to it, because that's why all the left-wing media stuff is just crumbling. And I love it. So I was going to share a story similar for me. That this story, actually, I do kind of feel guilty. Again, at the time, I didn't know much, but so it was, I had moved here. I want to say it was like the first year I was here was maybe the second year. Maybe I lived here and went to a wake, because they have wakes here like all the time. Family members will die or, pass away and stuff like that. And they have like 9 days where it's like you go there and it's like 24/7. And it's like, at first I kind of, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Get people to, but man, it is all the time. So I'm just like, I can't go to these all. It's just too much. So I go to it sometimes when I'm in a good mood. But anyway, so we went to one. I was riding on a moped and I was kind of new to the mopeds. I had ridden motorcycles, like some small dirt bikes and stuff as a kid, but I did not have much experience with it. I was more four-wheelers and quads and stuff like that, which four-wheelers and quads are the same thing. What I meant to say was quads and three-wheelers or four-wheelers and three-wheelers. So yeah, I wasn't well versed on, mountain biking, yeah, but anyway, so we rode there we had bought a moped, and so we went to the wake. My wife was on the back, and then we were driving from the wake down this road. And my wife was like, oh my, what the heck's going on? She saw something going down this. So we're going down this road, and to the left, like if we made a left turn down the road, there's people look like fighting or something. And then it was like, I kind of looked in the mirror. I could only see, I'm not like looking around or turning around because I'm a little noob on the moped. Plus I got my wife on the back. So I, was making the turn that I was making, which was on the opposite side. And then I do remember like looking in my mirror or something, and there was like a rock that came rolling down the road, like a really high rate of speed, I was like, what the crap was that? Maybe it wasn't a rock. I don't know, but it just seemed like something's like, what's going on? So I drove down to the road, and we kind of went like a block down and then went across where we could still see down the road, and we could kind of see. Then that's when we saw like people race off on a moped. Somebody went running, whatever, something went down, right? And so my wife's like, can we go back and check? And I'm like, oh man. It's like, all right, I can't conceal carry here or nothing. So anyway, so we went back and looked, and then there was some people out there, and there was a guy laying on the road. He was just laying on his back, right? And it was like, oh man, he got like jumped by somebody. It was really dark. And so people were kind of like, we were there, and then some people were like, I don't know. Some people kind of go and check, but most people are just there, and they're like on their phones, live streaming on Facebook and all that crap. And my wife was concerned, because they have, people do like hits, like people, there's some poor people that will, kill somebody for money. It's a lot of money here, but not, it's not that much money really. And so my wife was a little concerned, especially because I stick out like a sore thumb around here. So she didn't want me to be actually, hold on. No, so we were on the moped. We saw something went down, and we were like, what the crap? We went home, and then my wife saw something on social media, and like, oh my gosh, somebody did get injured there. So we went back. That's right, but we went back in a car, and so I stayed in the car at first, and people were around. Okay, see, now it's weird how you don't. So she got out and she checked, and then she came back, and she's like, yeah, he's alive, or the guy, and she's like, I'm like, did they call the police and stuff? She's like, yeah, they called the police. So I'm kind of sitting there, and a few minutes goes by, and this is a small town, so I'm like, where is the ambulance and stuff, So I get out, and I go over and just kind of look and watch, and nobody's really, anything. So I go up to the guy, and I'm like, hey, are you all right? And he's breathing, but he's, and he's kind of moaning a little bit. And I'm like, are you, and I'm looking to see, like, from what I couldn't, it was really dark. I didn't have a light or nothing. This is why now I have a little satchel and I carry some stuff. And it was like, I wanted to help him but it's like I didn't really have much to do. And I was just like, dude, somebody's going to be here. Emergency service will be here any second now. And I was just trying to talk to him. Be like, hey, man, just try and hold on. Police or ambulance are coming. But, dude, they took forever. And I think he was dead by the time they got there. And I just remember thinking, like, dude, like, you know, like I was really disappointed for one thing. And this was my first thing where I was just like, it is not the same here like it is in the States. I understand it's a third world country and stuff, but they do have a big ass hospital just right down the road. They got police and they got ambulance, but it's like nobody was coming. Like, what's going on? And this was my first taste of emergency services here in the Philippines, where like they don't want to do their job. They don't want to get involved. They're hoping to not. I think every day they pray that they don't get called to an actual emergency. I don't think they know how to respond to it or what to do. I'm serious. And because they were like, supposedly they were at another call for something. It's like, dude, you got a guy dying here. Maybe they didn't get the right information. I don't know. Whoever called it in, maybe they thought he just got knocked out or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's kind of messed up. So the guy ended up dying. And I just was like, I remember we went to his wake. And I was just like, dude, I felt, I said it. I was like, I'm sorry, man. I wish I could have done something. And so then I started carrying like rubber gloves and a little headlamp. And I have a tourniquet. And I keep that stuff. I don't have it with me all the time, but my little bag when I do have it. I need to get some more though, so I can have one in my truck and this and that. But yeah, I was like, you know what? And if something like that happens again, and I've already made this choice here. Like if something happens to any of my family here at the house, I'm not going to call emergency services and wait for them because they will never get here. They will eventually, but not in time. I'm going to take them in my car and take them myself. That's kind of sad, you know. But yeah, so I mean, you know, it's if I guess the guy he had a big nasty cut on his leg, on the back of his leg, and that's where he bled out at. And so it was just, you know, I didn't have a light to check. I have I have black rubber gloves. I need to get white ones though, so you can kind of check and find where the blood is at, you know, and just all those kind of things. And so it was just, it's good. It's nice to be prepared, to have a little first aid kit in your car and have that stuff so you can try and help somebody. I mean, yeah, people have given CPR and then they've damaged their ribs and they're like, oh my gosh, you didn't know what you're doing, and they get sued. But if somebody's bleeding, put a, you know, pressure dressing on there or a tourniquet or something, you know, I think it's pretty safe to say you can do some good and not get in trouble for it. But I don't know. The world is a crazy place. So anyway, let's see. I've been talking for a good while now. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of it. I just wanted to share my thoughts on the stabbing on the train, and this guy is going to go, I don't know. I hope somebody's held accountable as far as the justice system that let this guy get off over and over and over and over and over again. And I hope there's some reform, you know. I don't know. And you know what? Honestly, left media, keep doing what you're doing, because pretty soon you're going to be non-existent. Keep it up. All right. Thanks for listening, hanging out. I'll see you next time. And I got to move this. All right. God bless. All right. Bye.